Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Telling Tales. We've returned. How awful for everyone. Welcome. I've forgotten how to do this entirely, but that's fine because we've got a hype train going already. Before I'm even on screen, I would imagine that me being on screen, if anything, will diminish it somewhat. But thank you for the resubscribes, everyone. We've got John, Steve, Malice. I always say H.A. Berg, Harburg, whatever. Thank you all so much for your beautiful, beautiful subscriptions. Hi. It's been a while. But we're back. We were away due to undetermined private life events, which maybe, I don't know, maybe the more eagle-eyed of some of you might be able to detect what some of those might have been. Or even if you're listening, because it's only just occurred to me that this room's really quite echoey, so I might have to do something about that. But regardless, we're back. This is our first stream for a couple of weeks. Last time you saw us on Symbaroum, we wrapped up Wrath of the Warden, and we're here today to play through some Epilogue stuff, some character vignettes. It's generally going to be quite a sort of chill, laid back sort of stream. I will give a sort of brief recap of Wrath of the Warden, but before I do that, let's do the horrible, awful promo stuff that I insist on doing every time we stream. So down below, you'll find a number of links. You'll find a link to Twitch and to YouTube. You're watching on one, please do check out the other. You'll also find links on our social media, like we've got Instagram and Twitter and Discord. Patreon, those all do what you might expect. Please check them out if you're interested. I'll talk about our revised streaming schedule in a second, because maybe other people want to chip in on that as well. But in the meantime, let's just start bringing people in. I haven't asked John because I'm out of practice, but I'm assuming he's happy doing the character portraits here as we bring them up. That's a thumbs up from John. Well, with that in mind, John, I'm going to bring people on in the order they are at the bottom of the screen, but with you last, okay? Let's start. It's Chris. OG ATCB.
We don't get to see the list of people who are at the bottom of the screen, so that was
me and John do,
which I lost and was terrified for a moment.
Yeah, well, there we go. Chris plays Steo, former infantryman and guardsman, and now mercenary sellsword adventurer, sometime hero of the day. How you doing, Chris? Long time no stream.
Yeah, not bad. Enjoyed my time off, not having to save any towns or defeat any ancient evils. Just sitting in bed on Wednesdays, going.
Lucky, you're lucky. I've only a couple of ancient evils since. But
the only ancient evil in my room, Matt, is me.
Yeah, I know that feeling. So there we go. There is Chris. Let's bring on Sam next. And there he is. Look at him there.
Here I am. Me.
Here you are. Sam plays Ascarai, changeling scout, ranger, and maybe on again, off again, wannabe member of the Iron Pact. How are you, Sam?
I'm good. I'm excited to be back. It's been a long time. I've almost forgotten what I'm supposed to be doing, not just in terms of the story, but what role playing is, what streaming is,
how computers work.
Yeah. Very excited to be back in Davakar, or near to Davakar even.
We're mostly near to Davakar, aren't we? Which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring on Stephen next. Stephen plays Elindra, former Templar recruit turned sellsword.
We're all
serious sorcerer's powers.
Yeah, we're all sellswords, right?
Yeah,
but it's good. It's good to have a previous job. That gives the illusion of depth and richness.
I don't know what you mean. All of our characters are incredibly well drawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, how have you occupied yourself since we last streamed, Stephen?
I've been living it up on the fat Twitch money. No, I just
that we all get.
I've tried to get outside when I can, and the usual really.
Yeah, absolutely. In case you didn't know, Stephen does get fat Twitch money because he's actually the V streamer behind Ninja. You think Ninja is real, but in fact, it's just Stephen.
You heard it here first, folks.
I thought Stephen played every character of Critical Role,
just with different voices.
Yeah. I play Matt Mercer.
Yeah. Someone on a Symbaroum YouTube video the other day said that we were the reason that they'd fallen behind on Critical Role, which is just about the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. For both in general and for specific reasons about my feelings about Critical Role. Moving on, before we lose any and all friends we could potentially ever make, let's bring on our final player. It's actually, it's not our final player. Our final player is John, but our next player is Mike. John is shocked and appalled, and the camera's at the bottom. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Big news from me since we last did a stream is that, courtesy of John being a thoroughly nice chap, I have some actual dice, wow, which I will be rolling. Well, maybe I'll be rolling them tonight, but I will certainly be rolling them in the future. And so now we can all blame John when Anton does terrible rolls. Yeah,
because before it was the internet, but now it's all down to John. We're going to get Anton's picture up by any chance?
Yeah, my lovely new picture.
There you go.
I prefer the other one.
So Anton Theurg of Prios, holy man, healer, roller of terrible dice. All of these things are under Anton's purview. So there we go. Now let's bring on our actual final player, which is actual John. There we go. Hello, John.
Hello, Matt.
John plays Sir Arindar, although the Sir is really of his own imagining at this stage. Well, it's not official, is it? Last scion of Housedar, duelist, meerkat owner, and John. Hi, John.
Hi, Matt.
Hi. So yeah, this is our crew. We're back. We're excited. You can tell because we have no expressions on our face. But that's just because of the part of the world we're from. Don't ascribe that to anything. So yeah. This is Wednesday night Symbaroum back again. Oh, how lovely. How lovely. Now, what to do first? Okay. I think what we will do, friends, is I will give an ever so brief recap of Wrath of the Warden for anyone who's chosen to pick up during a stream/YouTube episode that has Epilogue written on it. But, just in case, whatever. So our crew here had already been in a number of other adventures before we picked up Wrath of the Warden. But essentially what happened is that Wrath of the Warden is a long series of awful things happening to the border town they live in called Thistlehold, starting with a collapsing sinkhole in the middle of town, just before which the crew had met someone called Anadea, who'd warned them of impending danger and said, maybe you can help me and you'll be rewarded wildly. She promptly vanished into the sinkhole, and the crew had to defend the city alongside guards and various other notables against wave of attackers from mysterious mutated beast clan monstrosities. It later turned out that these were the remnants of Clan Jazora, who were... I think it does. Sorry, someone's just distracting me there, Steve, with the thing. He might be right. Maybe I can change it. Clan Jazora, who occupied Thistlehold before the Ambrians arrived. So it's kind of like a mystery solved as to where they went. They went underground and turned into monsters. Yeah. And after that defense, essentially, you tried to find out what was going on, whether the sinkhole was the horrible event that Anadea had warned you of, and it's basically went on a long series of intrigue and plotting and being attacked by cultists and various bad stuff happening in Thistlehold, until you eventually worked out that all these events seem to be orchestrated by a cult known as the Midnight Cult, who had kind of geared other cults of the town against you, and who had ventured into the forest to sever the head of a forest god and bring it back to Thistlehold. And this event is what precipitated the sinkhole, and was basically what Anadea was warning about. This cult was about to gain unimaginable power by utilizing the head of the god Eox. You found kind of the pieces of this eventually by traveling and speaking to the elves in the Hall of 1,000 Tears. But on your return, things escalated, and it all led to a confrontation alongside your allies in a tannery where you wiped out most of the cult, and then down into the sinkhole to stop the ritual, where you did so. You managed to kill the head of the cult, Alabra Ambriagos, after he had definitely started the ritual but not fully completed it. You rescued the still living head of the forest god Eox, and are now heading back into the forest alongside the witches. Let's see if I can get this right. Ephenea and is it Gadramon? Yeah. In order to reunite the head with the body, because whatever power this forest god has, it apparently extends to not dying from being decapitated. So there we go. We're going to pick up with an epilogue scene in a few moments. Then we're going to do some character vignettes where we hop between everyone and talk about just little scenes they might want to do, stuff that happens after Wrath of the Warden. My mic is is it incredibly echoey for everyone else as well? Or is it just in my ears? No, is it all right?
Bad.
A little bit? Okay. That's all right. So, was that a decent summary of events, do we think?
No.
Good.
All right, you do better, Mike. Your turn.
There were some bad people.
Yeah, it works.
There were indeed bad people.
There was also some stuff actually that maybe sets up the next storyline, but I don't know if that's worth mentioning or not.
No, go for it.
I was just going to talk about the tablets, the copper tablets.
Oh yeah. One of the things you did was rescue the prophecy of Sarkamal, basically saying that a person who could potentially be interpreted as various people is going to retake the throne of Symbaroum deep in the forest of Davokar, and therefore it would be their territory. It would be where they have some sort of, I don't know, manifest destiny of some kind. So
I think
maybe
the
that'll
word
come up again. Who knows?
Rescue the prophecy tablets needs to be in
You
some
killed an old man
heavy
and stole
air
it.
quotes.
Yeah, you killed an old man and stole it. Yeah.
And also beat up an injured person.
I want to be clear on this. They killed an old man and stole it. I
liberated the tablet.
I stood and watched them.
Well, there we go. And Steve pointed out, you're right, it doesn't say epilogue, Steve. It definitely doesn't say epilogue, which is what I just typed in. Or epilogue. Oh, it's already going so well.
Steve's added it in the Twitch title. It's just not in our stream title.
Oh, okay. Well, I've just changed the title on our end. Fortunately, they either matched or it's all fine. It's all fine.
Technology.
It's all fine. It's probably all fine. So there we go. You know what though? Before we start with like epilogues and vignettes and stuff, I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about what we bought with our story ending XP on stream. So why don't we throw some of that out there? Just pitch in. Whoever goes first, that's fine.
I don't think I've bought anything. I think I'm still saving up for stuff.
Yeah,
I haven't bought anything, but I just haven't decided what exactly I want to buy.
Okay.
I think I was saving. Well, I mean, I couldn't think what else to spend it on, but I wanted to know if there was any kind of Beastmaster or pet class in the later
books.
I don't think there are. It's a shame.
No. It's
So I haven't bought mine because I am in a state of fundamental indecision as to whether or not the master level of Man at Arms is worth the hefty price tag it comes with.
So the summary is that no one bought anything. So that was a good section. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll do that again next week and the week after.
You better have bought something.
Yeah. So there we go. Steve does say, Mike has to save all his XP for rerolls, which is probably about right there. Okay. In terms of our streaming schedule, this is all completely out of whack. Not only is this my first stream in a while, but my mic collapsed just before stream, and I basically had to spend 20 minutes before stream trying to fix it. And yeah, just awfulness. Bear with me. Our stream schedule going forward is a little bit different to what it was before we wrapped everything up. This will be the last Symbaroum for a while. Next week we pick up with Into the Odd, which I think has been mentioned on all our socials and on stream here. So that'll be fun. We'll start that up next week, and we're playing through. If anyone is curious and wants to browse the book, but doesn't want spoilers, what we're playing through is the scenario in the book, which is called The Iron Coral. So that'll be fun. Monday nights return this coming Monday, not with Johnny as GM, but Sam. Playing some Warhammer Fantasy roleplay for a while before Johnny picks back up again in a number of weeks' time.
Not that Sam.
Not that Sam, but the other Sam, Monday Night Sam. We also have the return of Cincinnati Chronicles on Thursday, May 19th, which will be our fourth arc in that anthology where we're playing spooky Wraith the Oblivion. Come along and bring your existential dread with you. So that'll be fun, good times for all. And we'll wrap up Cincinnati Chronicles over the next couple of months. And then, we have a number of one-shots coming up. We should have a one-shot coming up this Saturday, but we don't know yet if we can. Because turns out, as I was saying beforehand, apparently other people have weekend plans. This is something I stopped having 15 years ago, but people have children and friends and stuff. That's a very good point, Stephen. We're allowed to have two Sams, but you have to be a Stephen. That's a really good point that I never even considered. Never even considered that.
I think we need a Samuel.
They were both Sams. They predated the Steve and the Stephen, and we did used to have a way around it. But because they're never on stream together, we've never used it on Telling Tales.
Yeah, but they were on ATCB as under different names.
I've been on stream with Steve, I think, once.
Yeah,
but never mind.
Hi,
Steve.
By different names, Matt does not mean Sam and Samuel.
No,
more different than
there were originally actually three Sams. The other two killed the third one. But they were originally nicknamed Joey, Jojo, and Shabadoo, which is purely from a Simpsons gag.
Sure.
Where is it Homer gives himself the fake name of Joey, Jojo, Shabadoo?
Yeah. Joey, Jojo, Shabadoo Jr., I think.
Okay. If there was a fourth Sam, they'd be Junior. But
you've gotten off pretty lightly with Stephen, I think.
Yeah, just as a bit of behind the scenes info, the only people on this planet that call me Stephen are my mother and Matt.
Awesome.
So, you're in a very
rarefied air. Absolutely. I mean, we could just start calling this Sam Shabadoo because that's how he was known for years.
I'm also looking forward because I'm joining the Monday crew for Warhammer, so we're going to have a John and a Johnny.
Yeah, but it's worth noting outside of this, you are known as John and Johnny.
Yes, but we do also sometimes get mixed up with each other.
That's true. Anyway, as Steve says, this has gone very off-piste, and absolutely it has. So let's actually crack on, and let's pick up not precisely where we left off, but a few days later, the group of you making your way through Bright Davokar, And I think I had described that a great sort of sling had been hung between the two colossi, the massive wooden creatures being ridden by the witches as they make their way through the forest, and cradled in that sling, the vast greenish horned head of Eox, the forest god, who occasionally is still letting out kind of deep rumbling, lowing noises as you march your way through the forest. And these do seem to essentially the creatures of Davokar seem to have either a sense of respect or fear for the presence of Eox, and have mostly stayed out of the way from the group of you carrying the head of the dying god. At one point, you glimpsed a pack of jackals watching you from a distance, and then running off. And later, you were followed by a group of curious rabbits who finally were scared away when the severed skull gave off a sudden bellowing noise. Is there anything during this rather odd journey that you will have been preoccupied with, or will have discussed, or want to kind of describe in any way?
I think I might be keeping a bit of an eye on Alindra, because she didn't, unless she has explained, didn't really explain why she just sort of ran off from the tannery.
Yeah, I suppose she did. There was sort of no time in the moment, right?
No. So I don't know whether Alindra would have mentioned anything about, weird sorceress visions, but either way, I think Aaron is a bit keeping an eye on her.
I think if anybody had asked, she would have said that she'd had, like, it wasn't she didn't deliberately have visions. So, like, I don't think she thinks that she did anything wrong.
Steo has an unwerving respect for other people keeping their own business after the previous Flaming Sword incident worked out in our benefit. So won't be prying too much.
Okay.
I think Askra is pretty exhausted from this whole thing and is probably not paying attention to much of anything, and is just kind of trudging along after at least one night of no sleep and many days of little sleep.
I think I'll be very, very intrigued by Eox being the second Elder Forest entity godmet. But I'm
technically the fourth.
Oh my god! Of course, because two of them were baiting lumps out of each other underground, but that's a different story. I'm keen to not end up talking myself into spending money on Lore Master, so I'm not going to go too far to pry. But yeah, just keeping an eye on Eox, and kind of, I don't know, some weird paternalists, like, what's the best word for it? Weird paternal, other morphic kind of thing going on.
Sure. Well, with that in mind, after the book says it's a day and a night, but that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to say that it's a good kind of 3 or 4 days travel through the eaves of Davokar. On the fourth morning, you kind of hear hushed voices ahead of you on the path, and kind of you can see where the trees are thinning out. It's worth noting that the witches, who would definitely have heard the noise of those kind of hushed voices, do not appear alarmed or wary in any way.
Probably stand behind the big colossi.
Absolutely. You stride forward as I say, the trees thin out, and what opens up ahead of you is really more like a meadow in the middle of the forest than anything else, where there is lush grass growing. A number of large kind of moss-covered boulders are stretched around, and at one point at the center of it, what you at first see as a particularly large boulder quickly becomes apparent is the large collapsed body of an ox-like creature covered in the same broad green, almost scale-like armor that the head of Eox also is covered with. There are 5 individuals stood in this meadowed clearing. They are all elves. One of them you recognize as Tiara Tiana. The other 2 are dressed in the same robes and carrying the same bowls as the other weepers in the Hall of 1,000 Tears that you saw. And another 2 of them are dressed in kind of unfamiliar robes to you. Not outlandish, but certainly ones that have kind of odd symbols and kind of runes stitched into the fabric of them. John, do you have the portrait of Tiara Tiana handy by any chance?
Let me check. Probably.
Have a look. Let me have a look. As the colossi kind of slowly make their way forward into the center of the clearing, the witches and the elves call out to each other in Elvish, which I think we determined, Anton, you can only occasionally understand. Why don't you give us a cunning roll and see if you can pick up what they're saying? You said you thought you'd roll today. Well, you are.
Here we go. That's a 19, guys. Inauspicious start.
Well, start as you mean to go on.
But it's not
John.
20.
It's improvement.
So all we need to do is buy Mike about 10 more sets of dice, and each time it'll come down by 1. Yeah. You have no idea what the elves and the witches are calling out to each other. But the 2 individuals who are dressed in those unfamiliar robes kind of walk forward slightly, place their hands on the head of Eox, and sort of gently guide the colossi forward towards that vast collapsed body. Tiara Tiana has kind of looked at all of you and kind of done a very simple, barely perceptible nod in greeting, but otherwise the elves more or less seem to be ignoring your presence.
I want to get as close as I think I can without upsetting the elves or the forest god. I want to see how the head reattaches. Just overtaken with curiosity.
I think Askra is the same, but not too concerned about upsetting the elves, really. Just very curious about this whole god head business.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Let me very quickly find Tiara Tiana here. And boop. There we go. There's Tiara Tiana. So yeah, Elindra and Askarai, you are trying to kind of like find yourself getting closer to whatever is about to occur. How about Steo, Aaron, and Anton? What are you doing?
I was gonna stay a bit further back, mostly because I don't want to take Ferren into the group and for him to do something embarrassing and show me up.
Start eating bits of the god or whatever. Yeah.
I was going to say pee on it, but whatever.
Sure.
It's not worth the risk.
It isn't. No, it isn't.
I'll also be hanging back a little bit, but more to kind of just view the whole situation and not just the reattachment moment. I want to see the kind of the pomp and the circumstance of it to an extent, such that it is.
How about Anton?
I'll also be waiting near the back, just to take it all in, and also Probably looking around to see if a small, curious singing child is going to appear at any moment.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that doesn't happen. I can exclusively reveal that. But as the colossi kind of gently move the head into place, it rests against the body, obviously looking like it very much fits in place. The two weepers with their wooden bowls are stood nearby, watching over, water running down their cheeks and dripping off their chins into the kind of shallow wooden bowls. The mystics are murmuring something to themselves, something in a language none of you understand, and they move around the body of Eox and the head, and then they go silent, adjusting the head so that the sectional planes touch with each other. And shortly after that, and especially noticeable for the two of you who are kind of closer, the flesh and skin along the edges of the cut start to simmer along the wound. Eox starts a low rumbling bellow that grows deeper and stronger and resonates through the meadow until the kind of the bodies of everyone there, yours included, start to kind of like just tremble in response to it. And then, quicker than you could have imagined, it doesn't take longer than more than a few heartbeats. And then the two of you who are closest notice that two of the hooves of Eox start kind of twitching and moving slightly. And then, just as if the vast creature had been asleep, the entire heft of the body rolls over with a kind of discomforted, deep grunting noise. And the forest god rises to its hooves, looks around with a kind of furtive glance at everyone in the clearing, and then lowers its head and starts to graze on the dry vegetation of the autumn soil.
Good work, everybody. I think.
We reattached, or we helped to reattach a forest god's head. Like, I don't know how frequent an occurrence that is for the rest of you, but this is my first time.
It seems remarkably unflapped about not being decapitated.
Yeah, I was expecting more of a reaction, but
You say that you're disappointed at the rebirth of the god, Ascarai?
Exactly.
You expected
exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
A voice speaks out near you. You did not notice Tiara Tiana kind of walking up close to you all, but she says, "It is the nature of Eox. Calmness, peace, tranquility. Those will return to hear the meadow, the trees, as well in time. We already removed the detritus of the cult's passing here. Washed the blood from the soil, from the grasses. I would like to speak to each of you. Alone." She walks away from the group and stands on the other side of the clearing, clearly not particularly caring which one of you goes over first.
I'll go first.
Okay. Father Anton, as you stride over to the other side of the clearing where Tiara Tiana is standing, you see that there are some moss-covered stones and tree stumps, perfect for sitting on, really, right there where she has stood. And as you approach, she sits herself down on one of those moss-covered stones and indicates for you to do the same.
I will do that.
She looks out into the forest It is the wet autumn has given way to a dry autumn now, and a cool breeze is kind of blowing through the trees, and the last remnants of the autumn sun is hovering overhead. She doesn't really seem to acknowledge your presence, but she speaks nonetheless, almost as if she's just speaking to the air rather than to you. How do you feel about what you have done? Do you feel you acted righteously? That all is justified, given what you have achieved?
I believe I can say that I have acted with righteousness. I stand against corruption in all its forms, and I have acted accordingly.
She nods. What, if anything, do you remember when we were all in the Hall of 1,000 Tears? We talked about rewards and the potential rewards that Anadea offered, and whether Tiana could follow through on those. What, if any reward did Anton request? Because I think some people said they didn't want one, but I can't remember.
I cannot remember how I answered that question.
I'm happy to retcon it with how you think you would have answered to it
now. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what Tiana is capable of giving. Like, I think that Anselm would, probably answer money, but then also probably want more inner peace because his faith has been a little bit shaken. You're showing that on the screen, by the way, Matt.
There. So I am.
Yeah.
Casually showing you the entire...
So yeah, while you're looking at that, like, I think Anton has had a bit of a crisis of faith, and like spiritually would like to be more closer to Prios. But I suspect that sort of stuff is not within the power of Tiana. So probably some material wealth,
sure,
along the line of what Anadea promised.
I'm not sure whether we explicitly covered it, but the kind of things that the book certainly suggests that you might feel that the elves are available to give you would be like kind of mystical artifacts, training of various kinds, cleansing rituals, and then yes, gems, precious things of those along those lines.
Well, I would be interested in elvish sort of mystical artifacts as well. I would consider that to be a suitable reward.
Sure.
Have I been in any way helpful there? Because I feel like you've asked me that question twice now, and I've just not really known how to answer it.
If what you requested was some kind of like mystical artifact as a reward, that is absolutely fine. Tiana nods and says, if what interests you is items of mystical potency, would you say that you have earned this reward?
Maybe. I think I have acted in a way that is righteous and true to myself, but I also did bad acts to get there.
And yet you said that you were righteous in those acts.
Sometimes being righteous means doing things that are difficult.
She nods and says, I do not have artifacts here with me, but I will ensure that they find their way to you.
I would thank you for that.
She nods your time with her seems to be done.
I will give her a deep nod of gratitude and make my way back.
Who's next?
Iron Man go next.
Sure, Sam. In the event, just to make it clear, she is going to ask the exact same questions to everyone. But having said that, I've only asked them once now. So if you want me to repeat them, I'm more than happy to do so.
Maybe, yes.
The first question is, how do you feel about what you have done? Do you feel that you have acted righteously, that everything you have caused is justified given what you have achieved?
I don't know how much time we have to be worried about righteous acts. Certainly, I've killed some people who probably would have wreaked more destruction than we have, and I've probably killed some that would have gone on to live relatively innocent lives, but I think I acted with my best judgment at all times. I think the result is the one we wanted. I'm not sure what else I can hope to achieve.
She then asks you if you would think that you have earned the reward that you requested. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, what you requested was actually to be taught more about elves and changelings. Is that correct?
Think Askray asked about rewards, like whether we'd still get rewards, but I think that is that is probably what Askray would want.
Yeah. Is there nothing else that you're requesting?
Maybe information on Lysindra.
But like information, tutelage. Yeah, okay. The question is still the same. Do you feel you've earned this reward?
Yes, it's something I would like to have. I think that we have helped you and your people, your goals. It seems fair to have something in return.
She nods and appears to be done.
I will walk away.
Next. Who's next? Going to see head teacher.
All right.
So do you want the first question again?
What is it? Do I feel like I've acted righteously?
Yeah. Do you feel you've acted righteously? Do you think all that you've done is justified given what happened?
So I think Elindra would say, I can make no claim to being righteous. I have tried to make the best decisions that I could at every step of the way, but this world is messy and the right choice is not always clear. I can say that I've done my best.
And I don't know if Elindra had identified a particular reward.
So as I recall, I think Elindra raised the subject initially in the Hall of 1,000 Tears and was very, very kind of direct and mercenary about it at the time, in terms of like Anadea was basically promising property or, wealth of equivalent value to a property in Thistlehold. So I think that's what Elindra had asked for originally.
Sure.
I think there's also information and things that she would like to ask as well, but
sure. Well, then the question is the same from Tiaratiana. Do you feel you have earned this reward?
The reward is yours to give, and I think the decision of whether I've earned it is yours to take. I can't answer that.
She nods.
Step away.
Who's next?
I'll go.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat the questions?
It's do I feel I have acted righteously and are my actions justified?
Yeah.
I believe I have acted righteously. I have intended to act righteously. whether I think my actions are justified. Apparently, my father used to say that the right man could justify anything. So I don't think that's really for me to judge. Some may look on my actions and think them, well, hopefully not too cruel, but unwise. But some of them will not sit well with me at night, but they are done. And I had to believe at the time that they were the best thing to do.
What, if any, reward did Arendar request or think of requesting?
I don't actually think Aaron requested anything.
Sure.
Because I think Aaron feels a bit weird, and he will say this. It's strange requesting a reward. And it seems base to think of material gain when there's evil and cults and the fate of the city at risk. If you think I deserve a reward, that is very kind of you, but I think it would be crass for me to ask.
Tiara nods. Last one.
So I'll wait for the question and respond. Righteousness is for knights and philosophers. I'm a soldier. I did what was necessary for the task at hand. Was it worth it? I think more people died than should have. Some innocent people died who shouldn't have. But it's the nature of the job. And if we stemmed the tide of corruption that we were told would come in the wake of this, and if it is any way as bad as what had been rumoured, then we've acted well. I've acted well. As to what reward, it'll be the same as I asked before. Agratha, Demerica in Mysteria, and Keltran in Thistlehold are practitioners of the darkest arts Ambria has known, the arts that scoured the south. Those are all I have, just the names. But if you find them, do not hesitate to find out who they associate with and kill them and those they associate with. Otherwise, the tide of corruption that came from the north will be met with one that comes from the south.
Tiara nods. You all are standing in the meadow for a few moments more as Tiara confers with the other elves that are there, and then walks over to your group. The two weepers are still stood there observing. The two elven mystics and the two witches are kind of examining Eox from a relatively respectful distance and murmuring amongst themselves. Tiana says, "We thank you for delivering the head of Eox to us, and for your actions in the Ambrian town. The elves do not use the term friend lightly, so I will not pretend that we are companions now. But certainly, I hope our paths will cross again." The witches do not seem to be going back with you. So I take it we're hefting our packs and striking out for the south.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Tiara,
I don't think
Tiana,
we crossed a river here, so we're still technically in really light Davokar.
you are in Bright Davokar, yeah. Tiana stands solemnly and kind of watches you file out of the clearing. And as she does so, two of you hear words at the back of your mind. Similarly, I think the only other time you may have experienced something like this is the spider god Zanatha speaking to you without kind of words into your head. This is a slightly different experience. Feels less kind of directly intrusive, less forced upon you, more words that are shared with you. Farewell, my friend in strife and sorrow. Soon we will meet again, if you truly want and dare. Until then, take care of yourself and keep these words of mine as your secret gift. The two people to hear that are Arindar and Steo. Thus ends Wrath of the Warden. You return to Thistlehold without kind of any great incident. This is just kind of Bright Davokar. A journey of a couple of days isn't too perilous. And you can take up your residence there as you want it. Let's throw another 2 XP your way for wrapping up that epilogue. And then we'll get on with some character vignettes, folks. So, with that in mind, and with that that last scene there, what I want to do before we jump into the vignettes, because I'm not sure, we kind of talked a bit about Wrath of the Warden last time. Are there any more kind of things that anyone wants clarified, or questions they want to ask, or just general stuff before we pile into these vignettes, or are we all kind of happy where we are?
If we're in, this was like discussed in a private chat, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but if we're in Davokar heading south, is it worth us as a group trying to find that artifact that we buried? I think it was like an axe or something like that. Are we anywhere near that?
Although I was under the impression that it was like, I was under the impression that it was kind of like most of the group wanted it buried and left there for a reason.
Okay.
And it was only Askarai who said that he mentally noted where the location of it was.
Okay. That's fine. No, we'll disregard that.
Yeah, only Askarai was interested in the evil axe. I think was the idea. So, yeah. Anything else from anyone?
I had a thing that I noticed just this session and was like afraid to mention at the start of the session in case it turned out to be a spoiler for the epilogue.
Sure.
It might be a spoiler for the next bit of the campaign. I don't know, but the fact that right at the beginning, Anadea essentially died off screen, according to any of the rules of fiction writing, means she's totally not dead, and there's going to be like a surprise revival at some point.
Absolutely.
I think we did lose.
I mean, you did find her crushed body, but other than that,
Did we? I don't,
yeah,
oh, yeah, I suppose, yeah, no.
you did find her body.
I thought we just found evidence that she'd been there.
No,
yeah,
you definitely found her body.
We picked her stuff off her actual corpse. Okay.
Off her actual corpse, yeah.
Could have been a decoy.
Sure.
She could have had a sister. Yeah. Right.
I mean, on a similar note, I'm concerned that I might be chicken in a boxing the names of the Dark Lord as hard as I'm chicken in a boxing the backstory of my spear. But
there's some like secret to them.
No, that they're legitimately probably the greatest threat that we should all be going to try and kill as soon as possible.
I mean, I'll be, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously, it's there. That letter you found isn't part of the Throne of Thorns because it was in Fear of the Hunt, and it was just dropped in there as like I honestly, I haven't read enough into Throne of Thorns to know if those actual named Dark Lords turned up in it or not.
Place your bets now, friends, because if I'm right on this, I deserve like at least an ice cream.
Yeah.
Without wanting to derail things, Chris, what does chicken in a box mean? Because I've just Googled it and I've just got a load of local takeaway options coming up.
So Matt can describe this better because I've stolen it from him.
Yeah, so chicken and box. I have heard other people use it before, or chicken in a cage is how I've heard it before. But the idea is the storyteller or game master, whatever, throws something in for flavor, for like world building, and the players immediately latch onto it and go, "This must be a clue." Where and I think the scenario I've heard it described as you go into the orc barracks. Like maybe they're all dead or whatever, and you describe the whole thing and say, "Oh, and they've got a chicken in a cage in the corner." And like, if you think about it for even a second, it's like they've got the chicken in a cage because later they want to kill and eat the chicken. But they're like, "Why is there a chicken in a cage? This must somehow be the secret." And
Maybe the chicken killed them all.
Yeah. Another good example. Yeah, Steve said the vase on the side table, which was a thing in our Call of Cthulhu series, that the players were fascinated with the vase. It was just a vase. It's just a chicken in a cage. So, yeah, I wouldn't say the list of like it's definitely not, as far as I'm aware, a key clue to Throne of Thorns because it's not in Throne of Thorns. That's not to say I'm going to completely, we're never going to revisit it again or anything like that. So I wouldn't say it's a complete chicken in the cage. It is a chicken whose provenance has yet to be determined.
Schrodinger's chicken.
Yes. Absolutely. Anything from anyone else? We all good? We're all good. Okay. So the next few months in Thistlehold and outside of Thistlehold are a time for the party to gather their strength, get tasks done that they want to get done, and generally just exist like normal human beings for a while, albeit normal human beings with a lot of threads to wrap up in their backstories and stuff. So with that in mind, I asked each of the players to submit 2 scenes, or 1 or 2 scenes. And in cases where they couldn't think of another one, I'm just going to add another one in. So what we're going to do to go through these, and some of them will be very short, but I don't want any of them to go over like 5 minutes or so because, well, partly the time. Some of them may feature other players as well. I'm sure a bunch of them will have NPCs and stuff in, and these are all going to be at least quite heavily improvised. At least one of them, I literally have no idea still what to do with it. And I just hope I'll get an idea before we run out of time. So we'll see. But first off, and I'm just going to roll, we're basically going to go round in a cycle on them. We're going to roll to see who goes first, and then we'll go through everyone, and then we'll go through everyone again. So the first person, and I have no idea how loud this is going to be on in the new setup. Hopefully not too bad. The first one is going to be Anton. So the one we're going to do first, and I know that Aaron has expressed some interest in going to the Witch and Familiar as well. So this was one about going to the Witch and Familiar to speak to the innkeeper. I literally have a block on his name. I can never remember what he's called.
Oh, I had it. Sorry, go on, John.
No, you go for it. You got it written down.
Well, I was just going to say I had a block, but I looked it up. It's Alamar, I think.
Alamar, thank you. You want to speak to Alamar about something, and so does Aaron Dar. So how about you both do that? Shall we pick up then with you both? And this is maybe a week later after both of you had a chance to get some sleep and rest. And let's pick up with the both of you walking down the street towards the Witch and Familiar. Having met up at some point and you're just striding along there, both wanting to talk to Alamar about something. And why don't you, not to just throw you and go, have a conversation, go, but you're mid-conversation, go.
Have you heard anything about Savola recently?
Nothing yet, Sadar. Unfortunately, I keep on meaning to visit the church and ask, but it is, as I'm sure you know, a sensitive subject, so I need to handle that with some tact. Yes, it is a bit of concern for me. Yeah,
it's strange that he's been in hiding for so long, and yet his son, Ward, was just wandering around.
I do find myself thinking of that from time to time, and it does distress me somewhat. there is a lot unexplained about that, and the encounter that we had with the boy was very unsettling,
Uncanny.
quite worrisome. Yeah.
You are outside the Witch and Familiar.
After you, Sadar.
Thank you.
You walk in, it's kind of an average afternoon. You're in a basically very early winter now. Are you? No, not that much time has passed. No, you'd still be mid-autumn, I think. There are quite a few customers here, despite the fact that people were all poisoned here not so long ago. And Alamar is kind of busy serving them. He gives you a cheery wave from behind the bar. He's a large barbarian individual, clearly having partaken of his own recipes a fair amount, with long braided blonde mustaches and kind of balding on top with long hair draped around his shoulders. And as you walk up to the bar, he greets you cheerily, both by name. And has anyone retaken up residence at the Witch and Familiar, or are we all now staying either at Mother Mahira's agency or I believe there was talk about staying briefly in Anadea's storerooms?
I think Asgra would still be in Witch and Familiar.
Yeah, Anton too, I think.
Yep, same. I feel like the agency felt like a sort of a temporary kind of hidey hole while the cults were after us, which is hopefully over now.
Sure.
I
You
think
haven't
I
seen any
stayed
sign
in
of
the
it,
agency.
certainly.
Yeah.
You're at the agency. Okay. You walk on in, and Alamar says, "Oh, gentlemen, what can I get for you this fine afternoon?"
Well, I will push some coins across the bar and indicate for a small beer for myself and my companion. And I will, start by, just asking for a moment of your time, actually, Alamar. As you know, myself and my party have been quite busy of late, and now that things have settled down for a little bit, I wanted to just ask you about that difficult time from a few weeks ago and the unfortunate incident that took place here. And I wanted to express my deepest sorrow at the events there and try to make some reparations for what happened and to the individuals who unfortunately suffered as a result of that. And my conscience has been racked with some guilt. So I was wondering if you knew of a way that I might contact the families of those individuals and make amends.
Alamar kind of nods and says, "Well, that's very noble of you, Father. I know what you mean. It's far from the first time I've seen men die, but from my own kitchen, it rubs raw. I do still remember the faces."
As do I.
And then he pauses a moment to think, and I am going to determine this with the roll of a die, and I'll put it up higher as to the result I think you want.
Okay.
That is a low roll. Alamar shakes his head and says, "A party of travellers moving through Thistlehold, off to the north. Maybe Carvosti, maybe an expedition. The ones who survived packed up and left the next morning. I'm sorry, I don't even have their names."
Just as an aside, out of character, do you know what the sort of death rituals are in Ambria, and if they would have been buried or cremated? Or
I mean, I think Ambrians would be cremated, right?
That's what I was thinking.
They have a sun god.
Is there somewhere where that would happen, or will people go to remember the dead that way?
Were they Ambrian or were they barbarians?
That's a good point.
I think they were barbarians.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely more barbarian clientele here.
Yeah, true.
I think they would have been barbarians.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay. In that case, I will. Yeah, Alamar, thank you for your time and for giving that some consideration. I do regret that I don't have a means of contacting those individuals, but you should know that the assailants are no longer a risk to this town. So you can sleep easier at night knowing that that is done at least.
That is good. Some justice for those who died.
Agreed.
If I could beg your indulgence a bit longer, I have a happier question.
Of course.
I came in a couple of weeks ago asking about meerkat trainers, someone who could look after an injured beast.
Yes, I have. He kind of rummages around under the bar, and a few moments later pulls out a kind of rough torn piece of parchment with something scrawled on it. He passes it over and says, My Ambrian writing isn't the best, but she's called Karoa. She lives but a few streets away. She has trained meerkats for the abomatorium. The abomatorium is a fighting pit in Thistlehold, where gladiators quite frequently fight beasts brought from the forest.
Oh.
But she knows how to train them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It's all right. Any friend of Father Anton's is a friend of mine.
And I suppose while we're on the topic for future reference, what is your establishment's meerkat policy?
If you can, if they're under control, it's fine to bring them into a room.
Fantastic. Thank you again.
He nods. There we go. I think we've wrapped up that little scene. Maybe not quite according to your desires, but there we go. Let's pick the next person. The next person is going to be Steo. And you know what we're going to do? It's a task that has not been done for a while now. So when you returned from your first trip into Davokar, where you ended up at the Tomb of Dying Dreams, you returned with a whole bunch of loot dragged out of the Tomb of Dying Dreams, and part of that loot was allocated to the next of kin of Ephenea, who long-term watchers will know as one of the original members of the party who lost her life in the Tomb of Dying Dreams. And that portion has never been taken and given to the family. So there are two sort of sets of family of Ephenea that you know of. One is an aunt who you met in Davokar, but the other, and this is why it hasn't happened yet, I think, you knew that she had a father and a brother in Thistlehold, but you never met them. You didn't know how to locate them. So it's taken some asking around and some sort of back and forth between some, maybe members of clans who aren't particularly keen on talking to Ambrians and confirming exactly who they are. But either way, you have now located who you believe to be the father of Ephenea. And I believe we're interested in going and giving him her final earnings, as it were. They will already know that Ephenea is dead because the agency will have... the agency logs everyone's next of kin and informs them if they die while on agency work. So you won't be kind of rolling up and going, "Hey, remember your daughter you last saw about a year ago?" Well, so that's all right. And I believe this is something that Askarai and Steo had both expressed an interest in, although certainly anyone else who wants to go can do.
I would definitely like to. We are kind of... Ephenea never was like, "Oh, I really hate my father," or anything like that.
No.
Okay,
Nothing like
good.
That.
She was quite keen, in fact, that we should
never regret him.
Right. I do remember now.
Yeah. So you find yourself on a street of kind of barbarian craftspeople, and you find yourself specifically standing outside a partially boarded up blacksmith's. The furnace is not roaring. The hammer is not striking the anvil, and it generally seems to be closed for business, although clearly someone is still living there because one of the shuttered windows is open, and you can kind of smell just kind of hints of cooking and hear the crackle of a small fire going somewhere inside.
You can speak the northern tongue, can't you, Oscar?
I can't speak
She wasn't a carrot. What was she? She was FNA was a
Odav.
Odav. You can speak Odav, can't you, Oscar?
Not well,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay, well, better than me. So good luck.
Living here, they
I mean,
should speak.
I'm just curious if Anton doesn't want to be here, and B, if he doesn't, why not?
Anton will be more than happy to join along with the group. Yeah.
Okay,
That's true.
let's throw Anton into the mix then, just in case.
Well, in that case, we'll roll out Anton and, like children about to do a knock and run at a neighbour's door, kind of stand behind him anxiously, except with grief instead of mischief.
Sure, misgrief. So, Father Anton, are you going to knock on this door, or
I will knock on the door. Yeah.
Okay. You hear a voice inside, not unkindly, but kind of with a slight exasperation, let out a series of relatively mild Odav curse words, and then a kind of recurring thump coming closer to the door before it swings open to reveal a man of kind of like older middle years. He has long red hair shot through with grey and quite a bushy red beard. He's very large, very kind of a lot of muscles that are now going to seed. And you can see that his kind of leg below the knee on one side has at some point been amputated. And he's using a sturdy-looking wooden crutch to hold him up on his other side. He kind of peers at you from not a grimy darkness inside, but kind of like a dimness inside. You can see that behind him he has a small kind of cauldron with some stew bubbling over it, and he kind of looks you up and down and says in very thickly accented Odav, "Priest. What do you want?"
Are you the father of Athenea?
I was.
At this point, I think I'll just turn to Steo and let Steo do the talking as the person who had the closest.
This was said all in Ambrian.
Yeah.
I think I'll just cut to the chase. I think. So I'll just take a kind of pretty large sack of thaler from my clothes and go, "This was her share of the last adventure. We've been holding it back."
He kind of leans on his crutch a little more and reaches out and takes it. "You were her companions?"
We were. This was her treasure. She gave it to us as she was holding back the roof of the temple before it fell on her.
None of us would have returned without her sacrifice.
She died so you might live?
Yes.
Yes.
Then she must have thought of you as friends.
We had been through a lot. We had good times together.
I thank you for this. Many would have kept it for themselves.
We only apologize we couldn't come sooner.
He widens the door a little and kind of stumps backwards a few paces and says, "My daughter's friends, come, eat. Close the door behind you. It is a windy day."
Is it actually a windy day, just out of interest?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like some metaphor for I hate people.
No, he seems to be honestly inviting you inside to share a meal with him.
Oh yeah, I'll go in. I think this is the first food I'm going to have eaten in a long time, which I'm certain isn't poisoned.
I'll
Sure.
definitely go.
Yeah.
Three of you go inside. The door closes behind you. And with that, we'll end that scene, I think. So, I suppose draw a little line under F&A. So, next up, we have Ascarai. And you know what? Since we've got Ascarai there, I'm going to cheat a little bit and move it to Aaron. Because I think that Aaron's first one needs to come. No, Ascarai's does kind of come first. So, Aaron, but we want an explanation for you, for the viewers. Can you describe the small expedition you have arranged into Davakar?
I can't remember whether they ever found the name of the building,
No.
but I'm launching a small expedition to some ruins just over the river, I think, where Steo recovered the Dar family sword from the presumed but probably remains of my deceased cousin Orla Dar. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to go retrieve her bones.
Absolutely. So that's the recovering the sword happened, I believe, I want to say between Fever of the Hunt and the Castor story, or maybe before Fever of the Hunt. Either way, around that period of time. And
Before Fever of the Hunt.
Yeah.
Sure. And if you're curious as to Orla and her fate, go back and watch the very first episode of Symbaroum, the prologue.
But spoilers, obviously.
Spoilers, obviously, yeah. But before that happens, you've chartered an expedition to go north to those ruins. Anyone of this party who wants to go, it'll only be maybe a week's travel there and a week's travel back. I believe. For the recent Heroes of Thistlehold, getting a wide explorer's license is very simple to do. The agency is happy to sponsor it as well. You've basically brought on a few laborers who are like promised. You don't think there's much there, but if there's anything that is there, then they're welcome to it. And people generally go through ruins that have been turned upside down much more than this one has been. So it's kind of a small expedition, maybe like just 3 or 4 laborers and whichever members of this party want to go. I know Ascarai definitely wants to go. Any of the other 3 of you want to go along? I'm not saying there'll be anything particularly to do, but just out of curiosity.
I would feel obliged to go and keep an eye on Aaron, because he's many things, but he's not a tank.
Fair enough.
I don't. Alinja doesn't have any connection to the history of the expedition, but I think if there is an explorer's license that is active, it would be a shame not to make use of that.
Sure.
She wants to learn about the forest and the things in it.
Sure. So maybe the 4 of you, Father Anton, busy on churchly duties, head out into the north in Davakar, and we're going to pick up not with that expedition per se, but we're going to pick up late one evening after camp has been made near enough to a certain small clearing in the forest that Ascarai can try and strike out and find something he's looking for. So we'll pick up with Ascarai walking through the trees of Davakar, and we're going to first. I think I made you make a roll to kind of try and remember where the clearing was when you originally said that, I think. And I think you succeeded in that.
I think I might have failed. I can't remember.
Oh, did you? Seems like something we should have remembered. Well, either way, what we'll do then is I want you to make. The thing is, you've had the advantage of being able to go and look at maps and think about it. So I think you still get some pluses to it. Although now I'm doubting myself that we should even be bothering with this at all if you fail the first roll. But regardless, can you make a cunning roll at +2, please?
Yes, my cunning is 10, so I need a 12 or less. I rolled a 15, so I fail.
So you fail, and this is going to be a very quick vignette then, Sam, in that you walk through the forest for a good few hours. The max you kind of way before you manage to locate the clearing. You're fairly sure you're in the right place in the forest, but you know what? Let's say you are slightly distracted. Can you roll vigilant for me, please?
Okay, vigilant is a 15, so I need a 15 or less. I rolled a 2.
Okay. As you're making your way through the forest, and you're kind of to the west of where the expedition is camped out on the road to that ruin, not an actual road, but the kind of, the path it's taking through Davakar. As you're striding through the trees, desperately trying to remember where that clearing might be, you stop for a moment. You hear something in the near distance, a bit further to the west. Maybe voices, maybe animal noises. Closer than you'd like.
I will try to hide as well as I possibly can and kind of in a position where I can look in that direction and see if I can see anything.
Sure. Why don't you give me a discreet roll at probably like +5 or something.
Okay, I'll need an 18 or less. I rolled a 17, so just about.
There we go. You find yourself quite a nice perch halfway up a large oak tree, where you can lurk in the branches that are still, even this late into autumn, relatively crowded with kind of reddish gold leaves, and peer down into the forest where you see a troop of individuals making their way along a rough game path through the forest. They come closer and closer and closer to you until they're almost walking underneath you. You keep yourself desperately quiet as they mutter between themselves in an odd, grunting, bestial language. When they're gone, you descend from the tree and decide that maybe you should seek out your expedition and just stay there and give up on the idea of finding this axe, at least for today, because you do not want to run into the Beast Clan again unawares.
Yeah, I'll head back to the expedition. Maybe suggest that we set off early in the morning rather than waiting for breakfast or something.
So I think you had kind of been informed / guessed that Clan Jazora had fled north through the tunnels into Davakar. They certainly have, and the ones you saw out here, Ascarai, I mean, they didn't look like they were, loaded under with treasure and high quality goods, but they certainly didn't look like they were starving or desperate either.
Okay, just another thing in Davakar to worry about. So
there we go, and let's move on to Arindar's vignette, and this is gonna be a fairly simple one. So there is a partly sunken stone ruin, a few days travel into Davakar, a ruin where whether it was a monstrous boar, another forest god, or something, dwelled with its coterie of grim, savage followers. First fought by an expedition striking out from the Titans, and then again the remnants of them by your companions as they return from the Tomb of Dying Dreams. Deep within this ruin is a sunken chamber leading to a treasure room, but in that sunken kind of antechamber, as you hear the sound of laborers investigating further up in the main chamber, and you are clambering onto the rope held by Steo and Elindra, as you clamber down into the darkness, your torch uncovers in front of you two things, both somewhat grim. The huge, starkly white bones of the vast boar-like creature, its tusks still kind of cracked and browned with old blood stains as it lies scattered on the ground. And just in front of that huge skull, crushed between it and the wall, is the bones of your cousin Orla, still kind of within the knightly armor that she wore on this expedition. Obviously, the sword is no longer there. You now have that at your side. But yeah, there you are in the antechamber.
I will sort of touch the sword at my side. It's like a bit of a recognition. And then I will check over her body to make sure she had nothing else that Steele may have missed of importance. And then I may call a labourer down to help me, or one of my friends, to help me pack her remains in a small wooden chest that I brought with me.
Sure. It can't be too small, a wooden chest.
No.
Not if you want the big bones.
Yes.
But yeah, that kind of chest is passed down, and inside the chest are several kind of rolls of fabric that you can use to shelter those bones from each other. You undertake the somewhat grim task of wrapping and placing them in the box. The skull left for last, as you rest the remains of Orla in the chest, to be where a labourer kind of tips the top of it closed and kind of with a glance up at you, just to check they're doing it right, kind of rather gingerly, firmly, but not like loudly and clangingly, kind of nails the top of it shut. What are you doing with the armor?
Is there anything on it that demarks it as Orla's?
No.
Hmm.
It was essentially like hedge knights. I think it was actually crow armor. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I will take it nonetheless. Maybe try and keep it in Anadea's storage or something. And then maybe, I don't know, it doesn't seem fancy enough to keep as an heirloom, but also it's the armor of a Dar Knight, which is fairly rare.
Yeah. The same labourer kind of packs it away in a box and then kind of looks around and looks over at the skeleton of the vast boar and says, and kind of like nudges it with his foot. It doesn't move at all. It's huge. And says, do you want the skull, sir? Or
Yes.
or a tusk?
Do you think we can get the skull out in one piece?
It's your money in your wagon.
Do I think they can get the skull out in one piece?
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a carry, but yeah. Like it'll increase what everyone has to carry on the way back, but
yes.
He nods and kind of moves around and starts basically like battering at the back of the skull to detach the vertebrae away, and starts testing the weight of it and whatever. As you sort of clamber out of the pit of the antechamber, Steo, Elindra, and Ascarai stood nearby and presumably kind of watched this kind of like happen. Are there any words that anyone wants to like? Darren, do you say anything? Do they say anything?
What will
That's
you?
not going to fit in the safe room.
What will you do with this?
Well, hopefully one day it will be displayed in the hall of House Dar. What to do until the Dar Manor exists is another question.
You're going to need to buy a lot of storage. It's your father.
I'm wondering.
I can get good price for this.
I'm not saying it's not impressive. It definitely is, but
I'm wondering whether such as our friends at the Ordo Magica might be willing to store it in exchange for free rights to study it.
I think the problem might be getting it off of them.
Hmm.
Only you could turn free money into an obligation. God, that's massive.
Yeah. Well,
congratulations, commiserations. I wish you luck.
thank you.
That's the one, Alindra.
I'm
Come on, I'm going to see if I can lash this up better. I don't trust those knots.
not sure whether to display this as the final trophy of Night Aula or the killer. Either way, it'll look really good over the front door.
The currently non-existent front door.
I need to get a front door that will suit the ball head.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, that's the end of that. Yeah, can we get a ban on the bot in chat, please? So the next, well, it has to be Alindra now because we've had one from everyone else. I think the one we'll have that is weirdly the more straightforward one. I believe we'll pick up with Alindra as Alindra is climbing the steps up the tower of the Ordo Magica in Thistlehold. And being shown by another reluctant novice to the doorway of one of the masters of the tower, where that novice kind of indicates the door with some disinterest and obviously a complete lack of enthusiasm for knocking on it themselves, and then turns around and kind of walks away with barely a look back at the chamber, which has like a very new looking kind of carved metal plate on it saying Master Furia.
I guess I'll knock on the door.
Absolutely. And John, do you think we might have Master Furia's image to bring up? A few seconds later, the door is kind of like jerked open quite hard, and Furia, the lean, almost kind of like skeletal and vulture-like old man with a mass of white hair, kind of like is looking at you from the doorway, head tilted to the side with some curiosity. He kind of purses his lips slightly and says, all right. In then. I don't have much time.
Thank you. Go in, shut the door. Is there anybody else about in the room, or is it kind
there
of
is no one, and the room is an absolute cacophony of scrolls, books. You know, he basically lives inside an explosion in a library.
Yeah.
He kind of clears some of the scrolls off onto the floor with a scoop of one hand and kind of waves at the rather bare and Spartan looking chair before he walks over to the fire and kind of like pokes it to keep the embers alive.
I will get to it and not waste your time, Master Furia. I have a question, and I have been trying to think of the right person to ask the question to, somebody with knowledge, but perhaps not tied down by religious dogma. Perhaps somebody who, whatever your opinion might be of me, is unlikely to change as a result of this conversation. I hope.
There is no need for hope, Templar. I can assure you that nothing you say might influence my opinion of you one way or another.
Well, that's reassuring. We spoke back in the tannery. I had some visions. You said something about forgetting or ignoring my training. Now, I don't know whether you were referring to my training as a Templar or some other kind of training. I don't know how much you know. Well, I assume that you know that I am not a Templar anymore, that I am not in any official capacity a part of the Church of Prios anymore. This was a decision taken by the Church, not by me. And I'm looking for somebody that might have some idea about why I am the way that I am, why I manifest abilities that scared the Church and made them decide that a life in the service of Prios was not what was set out for me.
He kind of turns round as you finish speaking from the fire, kind of tosses the poker just on the floor to one side and says, "So, the witch site, not trained,
And it's
do
not
you
the only.
have..." He kind of holds his hand up as you start speaking. "I speak. You listen. Always." He moves forward now, kind of quite fast and almost kind of like unusually for a man his age, and quite kind of like snake-like up close to you, and starts peering quite closely at you. "No training. I'm assuming no intent to gain sorceress powers yourself. The witch strike. And the power with the sword, yes? Flames.
Yes.
Is this all?"
As far as I know, I don't know where these came from. They just began to manifest one day. I don't know if this is all I'm capable. If there's more, I don't know where it comes from.
"I do not care about your capabilities. The practical applications of this are not what drive my curiosity. Insight before intervention. Knowledge before know-how. We will find out why you are the way you are, you and I, Templar. And if I help you with this, maybe you can help me with other things."
I could try.
"Yes, you can try." Okay. I think we will draw a veil over that there.
Cool.
And then I think who went first? Was it Steo? Anton.
Me.
Anton went first. Okay. So we are going to pick up with, I believe, a trip to Blackmoor to see what the aftermath is like there and if there's any good Anton can do. So we will pick up in Blackmoor itself, that vast sort of slum/refugee camp a couple of miles away from the walls of Thistlehold. And I believe Aaron Dar also expressed an interest in accompanying you there. Would anyone else like to return to Blackmoor?
Hell no. Absolutely not.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Then Anton and Aaron, where's the first port of call you think you might go in Blackmoor? To like the mission tents?
I think so.
Yeah. Is there a church there of any kind or not?
No, I don't think there's an actual temple, although I will double check. I will double check on the map here. There is not. No, there's just missionaries. There's missionaries in the what's it called? The rubbish heap.
Yes.
Yeah.
The garbage heap. Yeah.
That's it.
So yeah, do you kind of make your way back there?
Yeah,
Okay.
that works for me.
Related question:
Mhm.
Were we, for our service to Thistlehold, were we given any kind of remuneration by the guard or night pitch?
Yes, but I haven't worked it out yet, and probably these things do take some time to get to you
That
because
is
they
fair.
have to go through the bureaucracy of people approving them.
I'm just trying to
So-
figure out whether I'll have enough money to take food with me.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
basically it.
yeah. Well, if not, you can borrow it from the others. It's fine.
Okay.
So you've made you have to go through the kind of the black square to get to the garbage heap, and you don't particularly see any difference there. There are still those the mercenaries hired by the Baron in order to kind of like holds control over Blackmore there. Everything looks more or less as it was. As you make your way through the garbage heap, you definitely see, if anything, there are more people here now than there were when you were last here. In fact, to the south, on the occasion where you can kind of see over the top of the tents, you can see that a whole new area of habitation is opening up on the southern side of Blackmore. More and more tents being pitched, and you can see on a distant road, kind of not far from where the assassin leapt out of the tree and tried to flee. You can see that there are a number of rough and ready carts kind of moving in on the south east edge of Blackmore, and like kind of people just trudging along the road who look very kind of worn and travel weary. And as you arrive at where the mission tents are, you can see that they have also expanded. There are far more tables set up. There's kind of a whole proper kitchen going now, essentially, including a very large sort of marquee tent that seems to be set up. There are a number of those kind of robed novices still there, although you don't see the one you spoke to directly last time. But more than that, there are now individuals wearing kind of like there are a couple of city guards posted around, and there are also some individuals wearing kind of like official workman's clothes. Both of you can give me a cunning roll to see if you can identify what kind of who they might work for in Thistlehold.
I make it. I rolled a 4.
So did I.
They are wearing the clothes of the building commission, who in turn work for Night Pitch. I mean, there will be a building commissioner. You don't know who that is, but in the same way that you met the sewerage commissioner, right? So yeah, and they are standing around. They're talking to people. They're also working a little bit and helping with the cooking and overseeing the place. And like I say, there are a couple of city guards there as well.
And they would presumably be there to do more than set up some tents, right?
Oh yeah. The building commission don't set up tents.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I might try and grab one of those people and try and politely ask about the changes that are undergoing in Blackmore.
Sure. Well, why don't you there is someone kind of like there's like someone wearing the building commission's clothes who's kind of like scratching some notes on like what is essentially like an old-fashioned clipboard with kind of like has a little inkwell kind of set on a table next to him, and is just kind of dipping and scratching on it. Why don't you approach him?
Excuse me, good fellow.
Yes, I'll take your name in a moment. There are a lot of people coming in today. Oh, I'm sorry, Father. What do you want? There'll be more parsnips and turnips arriving in a couple of hours.
Just 2 minutes of your time is all I need. I am an infrequent visitor to this place, but the last time I was here, it was a sorry sight, and I couldn't help but notice that you are wearing the building commissioner's outfit, and I was curious about the changes that are taking place here.
I see. I mean, you could have asked anyone. That's fine. I'm sorry, Father. I'm very busy, but I apologize. I will make time for a man of Prios. The building commissioner, Kaliogaleia, has been asked by the mayor to initiate the work of filling in and covering up the sinkhole, which I'm sure you're aware of in the town of Thistlehold. The Queen herself and the mayor are providing him with all the resources he needs. And let me say, none of the day labourers are needing to go hungry at the moment. In fact, the news of the project spread all the way to Indaros and has residents of the camps there moving north by the thousands. And we are here to facilitate this because the hole needs to be filled. And the commissioner would like it done by the beginning of winter. So as you can see, there are a lot of extra workers and they all need food.
I see. So this is a camp for the workers then?
Yes. As to what happens when the work is complete, I couldn't speculate. But for now, there is extra funding available for the mission here and for these labourers. And yes, this very much rings true to what you can see around you. You can see a number of kind of mostly Ambrians kind of coming in, kind of dust and travel worn from the south. But there are plenty of kind of goblins brushing shoulder with them, kind of like moving around. Everyone looks to be definitely being fed more than they usually are.
Good.
Well, I'll just give the guy a curt nod and let him carry on his duties. It appears that the people of Blackmore are not expecting a huge increase in standard of living anytime soon.
But they are fed.
They are fed, I suppose.
At least until winter comes and the sinkhole is filled.
There does not appear to be any cult activity. Matt, is there any evidence of like new structures, like permanent structures within Blackmore or anything like that?
No, none of that.
Okay.
None of that. You didn't see anything in the Black Square. You don't see anything here. There are a few larger tents now, but like you think they're mostly being used by the building commission and the missionaries. So, no, is the answer to that question.
Okay.
And they definitely seem to feel that this, the workers are for this project.
Yeah.
What will happen after that? The one thing you do see, you have not seen hide nor hair of anyone in kind of red-eye garb since you've been here. So you assume that their days here are done.
Yeah.
Has the new work camp built over where the red-eye tent used to be?
No, there is still a wide scorched patch on the ground where it was. And for you don't know who did it, but the earthen steps down into the ground seem to have been like basically all that has been filled in and kind of hammered down with shovels or feet. This is not near the mission tent, by the way. You'll have had to go out to look at that, but that's fine.
Do we see anyone who looks sick or injured or anything like that on our travels?
Yeah. It's Blackmore.
Would it be possible to stop and make medicus rolls for anyone?
It absolutely would. Why don't you just generally give me a roll, and how well you do will determine how well you treat the individuals of Blackmore that day. There are far more than you could hope to. Almost every tent you go past has someone either coughing or clearly fatigued or wounded, or you're on mute.
Some things never change. We're back, baby. I make it, but only just. I rolled exactly what I needed.
You managed to stop off with a couple of people and kind of treat them a little bit, but it's a drop in the ocean. Or as the late great Sean Locke once said about doing his recycling, it's like turning up after an earthquake with a dustpan and brush.
but I, assuage my own personal feelings of guilt. So that's all.
Yeah,
that
so
matters,
it's all
really.
sorted. It's all fine. Yeah. Absolutely. I just just off that, and you may it was one of those things like the conversations with Tiara Tiana. I'm suspecting most, if not all, of the players guessed maybe what she was looking for, but you also want to role play right, and you want to play according to your character. Interestingly, what she was looking for, I can confidently say Anton gave the worst answers for the entire group. That I don't mean Mike. Mike was playing his character, but it's just fascinating that the holy man gave the worst answers to the.
I mean, is it?
But then, yeah, I mean, Anton probably doesn't want to be associated with the elves too much, so whatever. But yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there. If there's ever a chance to just single out Mike, I'm happy to do that.
Did he fail his persuasive roll without even rolling persuasive? Is that what's happened there?
Yeah.
So he turned up, basically.
Rough.
Okay.
I didn't mean as against Mike. I just meant Matt's general attitude towards Mike.
The lines are so blurred now.
Absolutely. Some rough chuckles there. Okay. Let's go to the next vignette. If there's anything else you want to do in Blackpool.
No, that's all good.
So let's go with, I believe Steo was our next port of call. I think this will be quite a quick one. This will more be a little description of something you get up to, I think, rather than I don't have any particular interactions in mind. But I believe both Steo and Alindra want to go on a short holiday to Jackad's Heart. Basically just get out of Thistlehold for a while, spend time in a nice, pleasant inn where they won't be charged anything, where the food is good, where the company is appreciative, and just spend some time there. Would anyone else like to go join them?
I will always take a trip to,
in the hope of getting more.
No, I just like it there, and I want to see my ogre chum.
Yeah, let's go see Mangold and see how he's doing. The inn is thriving. Clearly word has gotten out about the spring there, and when you arrive there is one group of pilgrims who have come up from Indaros again to come see Jackad's Heart, and the family there seem to be kind of they're more than tolerating them because they're bringing them a lot of gold, but also trying not to make it just a thorough. They don't want to get swarmed with pilgrims. So it is pleasant as you kind of arrive and make your way through the walls to that inner area with the inn. You see Mangold the ogre kind of tending the flowering vines that now cover the shrine, and his vegetable patch, which is now kind of expanded over. Although it's now being tended by the children rather than Mangold, he's clearly rather obsessed with making sure that the flowers and the plants around the shrine are growing properly. As you approach the inn, you hear the voice of a minstrel singing inside, and for a moment are filled with a sense of anticipatory terror, but it's fine. You go in, and it is not Blackhawk. You are not forced to pretend that you are friends with him. And you spend a pleasant few days with the family there, eating well, sleeping well, away from the rigors and intrigue of Thistlehold. Is there anything you want to kind of do while you're there that doesn't involve a huge amount of role-playing time because we're running over?
I'll definitely probably try and relax for the first day or two, but after a while I'll just start helping out around the place.
Sure, yeah. Seems good.
Linda's just going to take just a lot of baths, basically, and almost like she's trying to wash the stains of her past misdeeds off.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what murdered prisoners you could be talking. I literally don't know which one you could be talking about, but there we go. Okay. And because it has to stop sometime. No more free refills of the Water of the Dusk. I think, as multiple people have commented on the thing, the reason this campaign might not be so brutal is because you've got a free sippy Healy bottle.
I didn't for a second imagine that we would be allowed a refill just for coming back here.
So, who is next? I think we have. Next, we have Ascarai. Now, Ascarai had a number of options here about talking to someone about something. And basically, I wanted to see if, based on the vignettes that have taken place so far, or of any of the ones that are about to be taken, because I think Ascarai will, like Sam, will know which ones are coming up. Is there any particular one of those you want to pick to do?
I think I'd like to try and find out about the Templar brothers.
Okay. In that case, we're merging two of them.
Cool.
Okay, so that is what we'll do. And you know what? We'll do that last. How about that? We'll do that last. So before then, we'll have one with Aaron. So Aaron, you are in Thistlehold. Maybe one evening, and now kind of enough time has passed. You're reaching the sort of the end of autumn now. The work on the sinkhole has been proceeding for sort of quite some time now. Many of the taverns and inns you go into are have a backdrop of heroic poems and songs in honor of the victory over the dark. A lot of places initially very much recognized you when you went in. Now that's fading somewhat, but still occasionally when you walk through the streets, as you do with the others, people will kind of like thank you, or you'll raise a small cheer from going into a tavern or something like that. The other things have changed. The security at the gates seems to be heightened. You've heard word that the legation is very restrictive when it comes to granting explorers licenses, although yours seem to go through perfectly fine. But yeah, there's definitely a sense of the town is holding its breath a little bit in anticipation of something awful happening again. And maybe it'll be a while before that breath is exhaled. But be that as it may, we're in late autumn, one evening, Arendar. None of the others are around. Where are you? You can be anywhere public.
Would the agency common room count as public?
No.
Or do you mean like in a
Members
bar?
of the public cannot go into the agency.
Got it.
Yeah, a tavern. It doesn't have to be a tavern, but like, anywhere where anyone can just walk in. Be the Witch and Familiar, anywhere.
Let's go for the Witch and Familiar.
Yeah.
I know I will have Farron with me. I know he is welcome there. So, Witch and Familiar.
So you are there perhaps having a quiet drink, maybe waiting for the others, maybe not. But you are having a quiet drink. And as you are doing so, Farron next to you lets out kind of a low little growl, which is a sound you're fairly used to. When most people approach, Farron growls at them.
I put my hand on Farron's back and see what he's growling at.
Sure, you turn around. As I've described the Witch and Familiar before, it doesn't have tables or kind of chairs. Everyone sits cross-legged around small fire pits in the ground. And you turn around and see kind of a man has come in and is kind of standing over you, like in the kind of shadowed against the one light that's still coming through as the sun is dipping. He moves slightly and you can see that it is Captain Decamado standing there. Have you got a picture of him, John? Or
I do. There we go. There we go.
He kind of stands over you and but actually what I should have asked you to do, could you give me that contacts roll that we were talking about, John?
Yeah, which I think is just my persuade, which is an 11. I rolled a 19, so that's a fail.
Yeah, you're not really sure. You weren't really sure who basically, do you want to tell everyone what you were rolling contacts for?
So one of the other things Aaron wanted to do was to write a letter to basically try and draw attention to the conditions at Blackmoor, trying to find a noble or someone as high-ranking as he can in the royal family or whatever, who may be interested in the unfortunate circumstances and misfortunes of the Queen's citizens of Blackmoor.
Absolutely. And because you couldn't think of someone, let's just say you passed on to the Queen's Legate.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Decamado says, does your cat not learn to love anyone?
That depends on whether you have bacon, I'm afraid.
I do not. I fought alongside the beast. One would think it has at least learned not to growl at me.
Well, growling is rather better than one of the alternatives, Captain. Don't take it as a slight. He does it with everyone.
I suppose so.
Can I get you a drink?
No, I won't be long. He tosses 2 letters down at you. One is the letter you sent in an attempt to garner the attention of House Corinthia to the Blackmoor situation. The other is a letter you sent to the Hall of Knights in Indaros, requesting them to recognize House Dar. You did not send this to the legate.
How kind of you to return these to me, Captain.
Not my choice. Well, not my choice to receive them. Both of them were held aside. We tried to get some attention for the one regarding Blackmoor. You didn't tell him what was in it. But someone with pull and sway seems to have recognized your name. They ensured that neither of them reached their intended destination. And I have received a request regarding your identity and your address.
Not from a well-wisher, I assume.
You have to believe that a well-wisher would be happy to see your letters reach their destination.
Might I ask who is so concerned about me?
If I knew that, I'd be telling you.
May I ask what you told them?
I'm still making up my mind on that. It's come through several layers of bureaucracy. Without a significant greasing of palms, I doubt I'll be able to find out who is doing the asking. The Queen is always very grateful for the services of any and all of her nobles, Sir Aaron. Maybe if more services can be rendered, then you and I together could see about where this has come from and what is happening. In the meantime, I see no reason not to inform the bureaucrat who made this request of some spurious address or another.
Well, I remain, as ever, the Queen's loyal servant, Captain.
We'll speak again. I won't send any more letters for now.
Noted. Thank you. I will slide them off and hide them in my armor.
He gives a slightly mocking smile, tips his head to you and walks out into the soft rain of the late autumn evening. Okay, we've got one more vignette, folks. We're going to wrap up kind of on time, as long as this doesn't ramble onwards forever. But we have basically, let's get rid of Decamado there. We have two people who want similar things. We have Ascarai, who wants to, in Sam's words, attempt to figure out whether the three Templar brothers realize it was us who killed their friend and assaulted the injured one, either by just confronting them, spying on them, asking around, or some other method. And we have Alindra, who tries to find out where she could go to meet some Knights of the Dying Sun. So here's the thing. Alindra, you do some initial asking around at the Sun Temple, kind of like casual conversation with the few remaining Templars there. And the general impression you get is that if they knew where anyone who considered themselves a Knight of the Dying Sun was, they wouldn't be telling you about it. And they certainly wouldn't kind of like be admitting that they know. They must do, because if significant numbers of Templars have now gone back to Temple Wall to like take part in this movement within their order, then they must know them. They'll have been trained with them. But they're all fairly close-lipped on it. But why don't you make me a persuasive roll to see? And you know what? I think they have some camaraderie with you. You went through Templar training, so put a +3 on it.
Sure. That's still not Alindra's strong point, but we'll give it a go. I need a 10. I get a 14.
No. You don't find any joy from them. You don't find, if you try and engage any of the actual theurgs about it, even less. If you try and talk to any of them, it's quite probable that most of them will kind of just basically say they don't know what that is. Which is an impossibility. Of course they know, but they're kind of refusing to acknowledge it. Therefore, there is only 3 individuals within Thistlehold that you know for damn sure are members of the Knights of the Dying Sun. And those are the McKell brothers. Ascarai also seems interested in them as well. It is unclear whether they could identify you because of the circumstances of your attack on them and following them and stuff like that. So you don't know. But what we're going to do now, and I guess this is more like a real scene than the others, is Alindra and Ascarai. What are you going to do about this? Because these are... Ascarai is interested specifically in them, and Alindra, you can't think of any other way you could talk to a Knight of the Dying Sun.
Yeah, but I won't want to do so unless we can put Ascarai's fears to rest that they might be out for blood.
I think perhaps the best solution is to try and find them and try and talk to them in a public place.
Sure, absolutely. Well, why don't we start doing that? And I don't want to do a full scene because we are running late here. So why don't I just ask for some rolls from you and we can see what we can do from this. So why don't both of you make me first a cunning roll.
I made it.
Yep, awesome. Same.
Great. And then why don't you both make me a vigilant roll?
Failed that one.
Rolled it too.
Okay. So both of you, obviously the winged ladle is where they were before. It occurs to you to go kind of scout around the place. We won't go into the specifics of that, but essentially your observations of the winged ladle, and even just going in there for a drink, you talk to the bartender there. She informs you that she believes only one of the brothers is still staying there now. And as she says it, she looks kind of uncomfortable about it. You spend a kind of couple of hours drinking there and get into a conversation with some individuals at the next table over, a traveling merchant and his son and daughter, who seem quite gregarious and quite happy to talk. As you kind of sit down and share some bread with them, the son kind of blurt out, I heard you talking about the Templar who's staying in here, the one whose brothers were killed. The merchant kind of the back of his head and says, "Don't talk about others unless they're around. It's gossip and rumor. That's all we know."
His brothers were killed, you say? We hadn't heard of this.
Merchant kind of peers around and kind of shoots a slightly venomous glance at his son on the road, trying to ambush a caravan. Not very holy behavior, if you ask me.
They were trying to ambush a caravan. Templars turned highwaymen.
Very heavily guarded, it turns out.
Was it heading to Inderos by any chance?
It was. Do you hear it?
No, I just have some suspicion.
Anyway, guards came here, including that captain, the one with the mouth. Now, the injured Templar is still just in his room. Don't know if he's waiting to die or waiting to heal up and return to Temple Wall.
So he's here now in his room.
That's right.
Interesting. I don't know how much more I want to ask them directly, and how much I want to sort of find an excuse to speak to Ascarai away from them.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I thank them for their hospitality.
Yeah, like give it a little while to make some conversation, not like immediately leave. But I want to talk to him. I think there's a fairly good chance that he might recognize me from the last time that we were in his room.
If it's the same one, you'd think he'd be very wary about strangers coming and knocking on his door as well.
I don't.
When you assaulted him, was there a thing where you had like kind of masked up a bit?
Yeah,
I
I tried to mask up, and it was mostly okay. I seem to recall Arendar was like.
Yeah, Aaron fucked up, but I
much
think
more recognizable.
Yeah.
I was spotted by someone coming out the door in the other direction.
Yeah, we were not subtle. We could try. Maybe he won't recognize me without the face mask.
At the very least, on his own and injured, he shouldn't be a threat to us, so we don't have to worry about that. No harm in trying to talk to him, I suppose.
Okay. We'll see if we can find a way to.
You know where the room is.
Yeah.
So.
I will. Unmasked.
Let's be generous and assume you've come without your armor, like in different clothes as well.
Yeah. I think Elindra will try to not be wearing the armor as much as she feels safe to do so.
Yeah.
We'll go and knock on the door.
Sure. Who is it?
I had not at all figured out how to answer that question. Somebody seeking some information that you may have? My name is Elindra.
The door opens somewhat cautiously. Could you see? It was the other brothers who spotted Ascarai following them as well. So that's that. He's seen you both before at the sinkhole and stuff. But why don't you give me a discreet roll, Elindra?
Okay. I'm already preparing to spend the XP on this.
And there's a result for a pass, there's a result for a fail, and there's a result for a 20.
I got a 1. Is there a result for that?
He kind of cracks open the door, looks at you both and says, "What do you want?"
You are the only person that I know in Thistlehold, or in fact Ambria, that might be able to tell me something about the Knights of the Dying Sun. I am a former Templar. I have heard what some people in the church say about what the Knights of the Dying Sun believe, and I am simultaneously horrified at the concept and must know more. I was wondering whether you would be willing to speak to me.
He glances over at Ascarai and says, "Are you wearing a mask, Ascarai?"
Yeah.
Masquerade.
And why are you here, half-breed?
I'm a friend of Alindra. So, yeah. Here
He kind of shrugs. He's wearing like a loose shift with obviously kind of bandage still rather heavily around his abdomen. And he shrugs and steps back and says, "Well, if you are here to kill me, I suppose it matters not whether I let you in or otherwise."
That's not what this is about.
He kind of walks over to a desk where he pours himself a tumbler of wine. The kind of drapes are closed across the window, so it's quite dark inside. It smells of sweat and the sour sweetness of illness. What is it you wish to know?
I've been told that the Knights of the Dying Sun, those that call themselves that, have left the Templar Order of the Church of Prios because they believe that Prios is dead. I am interested in why the Knights of the Dying Sun believe that, on what basis. And after that, I don't know. All I can say is that I trained that way. My own faith has been shaken in various ways, and I would like to understand.
What is there to understand? Look around you. God is dead. Destroyed in war. Here there is corruption, misdeed, perversion.
And if Prios was alive, Prios would wave his cosmic hand and immediately fix all of this.
I did not say that.
That was a question, not a statement.
I am not a theologian, Elindra. The Knight Commander, Jacobo Vieira, we are following him.
Following him where?
If you wish to know more, come to Temple Wall. As a former novice, I'm sure overtures could be made. But I can tell you, Prios is dead. He stands up, kind of opens the door, clearly already unwilling to answer any more questions.
Jacobo Vieira, Temple Wall.
I doubt you can get an audience with the Knight Commander. But if you wish to find more Knights of the Dying Sun, that is where we are. And we have not left the church. Not yet.
You remain in the church of a dead god.
He waits for kind of Ascarai to walk out ahead of you. And kind of, as he kind of closes the door behind you, he quite quickly and subtly slides a book into your hand and says, "Prios is dead. all that is left is vengeance. The door closes. And I think we will leave the vignettes there. So, epilogue, character vignettes, Wrath of the Warden. Good stuff. Before we feel free to throw comments and questions into chat for us to address. In the meantime, that's a lovely ending promo. If you look below, links to Twitch, links to YouTube. You're watching on one. Please check out the other. There are links also to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. Check those out if you're interested in them. Our current upcoming schedule is Wednesdays from next week onwards for a while will be Into the Odd. So that's starting next week. Mondays next week is also starting Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay with Sam as the GM. Not that Sam, other Sam. We will also be restarting Cincinnati Chronicles on Thursday, the 19th of May, and that will be Wraith the Oblivion. Please join us for that. If you want to see any of the previous arcs in Cincinnati Chronicles, they're all on YouTube, Vampire, Werewolf, and Mage. We may have a one-shot this weekend. We're not sure yet. If it is going ahead, it will be Death in Space, which this reprobate to my right will be running. I'll be in that as well, as will Steve and maybe other people. Can you tell why we don't know if it's happening yet? After that gets sorted, we also have a one shot that needs to go into the calendar, which is to do the Johnny's Space Call of Cthulhu thing that we had to cancel last month. And then I think the one shot for June will be Mork Borg, which I'll be running. So yeah, that's about it. Comments, questions, stuff. Steve, I'm sure Black Hawk would have composed a great song about your recent endeavors. Yes. And also, I think someone else, it may have been Steve, did ask, have you met Black Hawk since FNA died? And the answer is no.
Every time we go into a tavern and there's a minstrel and I see everybody else like tense up for a moment before you go, and it's not that guy. I can't wait.
I can't wait for the inevitable Black Hawk Alindra romance subplot, and then the rest of us being horrified of Black Hawk also trying to get with the FNA replacement.
He is a charming and or annoying Lothario, depending on your from where you're standing.
Well, that's going to be fun to see how that plays out.
Yes, a reward. Lovely. How many cloaks have you got? Less than you should have.
Keller's been everywhere.
He's got cloaks from every town in Ambria.
I've got some internal decorating tips concerning the boar head.
42. You can turn the head into a house for Farron. That's an excellent idea.
It really is. This is an interesting one.
Lauren, good to see you. And it's good to see 42 as well. There's an ongoing discussion in the community about the death rituals. I would say most Ambrians are burned, otherwise they would have been resurrected by the Dark Lords in the war. Yeah, I think, I mean, it makes sense to cremate someone if you're like a sun god, right? I guess the other thing could be like sky burial would be another option with a sun god, I guess. You could do that. He says, assuming everyone knows what sky burial is, basically big platforms, and you just leave someone on top of the platform, and the elements and the birds take care of it.
I was imagining a trebuchet.
I mean,
off you go.
Kind of so was I.
In many ways, that's less a sky burial and more a ground.
It's temporarily a sky burial.
It is.
Depends on how big the trebuchet is.
Yeah, like high platforms, or not always high platforms if it's in a settlement. If it's not out, sometimes just left somewhere, basically for the elements and the birds, and to take care of the matter. It's a good point. Also might want to burn people so the Dark Lords don't resurrect them and use them in their armies of the undead.
Those bloody sorcerers, eh?
Yeah. Next. If Telling Tales ever create an RPG, I think Wrongtius would be one of the course. Wrongtious. I don't even remember this. I saw this and I was like, I didn't notice that someone said wrongtious.
It was. I don't think they said it in the stream, but it just sounded for a moment like Anton, like in sort of justifying himself to Tierra Tiana, was like, "Well, I've tried to be wrong. I've tried to be righteous, but
Wrongtious. Yeah, I've tried to be wrongtious. I've tried to be as
being
wrong as I
righteous
can.
means you have to do things that are wrongtious.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think wrongtiousness would be a
We need
fantastic stat in
We
an
need a
RPG.
wrongtious emote.
And following up with that,
Misgrief is our next character stat. It does either this or Morkborg should have a misgrief stat for sure.
Yeah, just the same stat for sad things and cheeky things.
Yes, that is my stat. Steve, are people looking forward to Into the Odd? Do the players know anything about it yet? Just I flick through it on that stream. Yeah, we haven't done characters for it yet, which reminds me we've got to arrange to do that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I don't have to carry an entire world of Symbaroum in my head while running it. So that's always fun. It'll be much easier to prep.
I'd be looking forward to it if I didn't have like 3 other systems I'm trying to learn simultaneously.
Chris has got a lot on.
Got a lot
Chris
on.
has got a lot on. Yeah. To be fair, no more than I have on, but also I'm used to it. So, yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it seems fairly simple, hopefully.
It is. It's pretty simple. Yeah, rules-wise, it's very simple. So
the only thing I know about it is it's kind of a sort of Gormenghast role-playing game, which would be a great description if I knew anything about Gormenghast.
It's definitely got a Gormenghast vibe, but I wouldn't say it's, for a start, it's not all set in one huge castle that seems to go on forever.
Cool. That is a thing I now know about Gormenghast. That it's all set in one huge castle.
Yeah. Well, the first 2 Gormenghast books are, which is to say the 2 good Gormenghast books are.
I think to answer the question, I plan on starting to read the rulebook probably as soon as we go off air.
Amazing. A quick reminder for everyone again. Yeah, don't read when you get to the Iron Coral bit of the book. Stop, because I'm not doing any work for it. So I'm just running the scenario in the book. Lauren, will you start with the next part of the campaign when you come back to Symbaroum, or will you have a few in-between adventures? We won't have in-between adventures in the same way we did last time. We won't have, Fears of the Hut, because there actually aren't any that slot in between, are intended to slot in between the two, because Adventure Pack 1 slots in before Wrath of the Warden, but Adventure Pack 2 is meant to slot in after the Witch Hammer. So there's kind of a thing there. Having said that, and I'll just... The Witch Hammer starts in a place where we're not. So rather than just go, you're here for a reason, I will have a bit at the beginning that I've kind of engineered and made up a bit. That might have a little side quest along the way to get you to the beginning of the Witch Hammer. So to answer that question, we are starting with the Witch Hammer, but the beginning of it is going to be lengthened out and chunked up a bit by me for 2 or 3 sessions, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what I think of. So kind of both, but also kind of not both. Yeah, that's it. Okay, we've run long here, folks. Thanks so much for your attention and for the patience of the players. Take care out there. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week for Into the Odd. How exciting. Goodbye, everyone.